The Signalman by Charles Dickens. Hello, below there! Hello, below there! When I first called down to the signalman in this fashion, he was standing deep in the shadows of a steep railway embankment, whereas I, standing at the top of the embankment, almost directly above him, had the full glare of a late afternoon sun in my eyes, and I'd had to lift my hand in front of my face before I'd seen him at all. But when I did call down, "Hello, below there!" instead of lifting his eyes to see where I stood, he turned himself about in the other direction and gazed down the line, towards a rather gloomy tunnel's mouth with a dismal red warning light close by it. I tried again. "Is there some way that I can get down to talk to you?" Well, this time he did look up. He beheld where I stood above him, and then, after looking once more down the line, he looked up at me again and pointed with a flag which he held, furled around a short pole, to a place not far from where I stood. I thanked him, and I made for that point. When I got there, I found there was a rough zigzagging path cut out of the living rock. I stumbled down as carefully as I could. When I next came within sight of him, I saw that he was standing so still, gazing at me with such rapt attention, that it stopped me in my own tracks for a moment, wondering at it. I drew closer. I saw that he was a middle-aged gentleman, with greying hair at his temples and in a small, neatly trimmed beard and moustache. His place of work was, I think, one of the loneliest and most dismal that I have ever come across. Imagine, if you will, a single railway line with the warning light and the tunnel's mouth, which I've already mentioned. In the other direction, some distance up the line, a signal box and a few more signal lights. The two sheer walls of the embankment, and above a thin strip of late afternoon sky. "This is a lonely spot to occupy," I said in greeting. "A visitor here must be a rare thing, I suppose, but not an unwelcome one, I hope." He looked at me and took his hand to shake mine, but still did not reply in words. I asked him again, did he have much work to do here? This time he did speak. After looking at me and back down at the light. "Yes, sir. To trim that light there, sir. Change those signals, make the odd comment in my office back there, sir." The office was what he called his signal box. "To be exact, precise and watchful, sir. That is what is required of me. Of hard physical work, well, there's next to none." He invited me into his signal box, and it was quite a homely little affair. There were even a couple of chairs by a small fire burning in the grate, an oak table on which was laid a leather-bound book in which he wrote down the comments about the trains going past, and high up on one wall was a small electronic bell. He divided his attention in talking to me by gazing into the embers of the fire and staring straight into my eyes, as he responded to my questions about his job there with the occasional "Yes, sir," "No, sir," "Well, I don't rightly know about things like that, sir," and other such comments. Twice during our conversation, the bell on the wall rang out, and when it did, the signalman went to the door with his flag, and he waved a signal at the trains as they went by. On the second occasion, he even made some verbal communication with the driver. I don't remember the exact words he used, before coming in, making his comments in his book, and sitting down once more. Now, in doing all of these things, I observed him to be exact, precise, and watchful, and in a word, I would have put him down as one of the safest men in the country to be employed in such a job. I would have said that, were it not for the fact that twice during our conversation the signalman looked up at the bell when it did not ring. And on each of these occasions, when he went to the door and looked out down towards the tunnel's mouth, he came back and gazed at me very strangely indeed. Well, time was getting on. It was already past the time. Oh yes, when I said that I would be back at my hotel, so I stood in order to take my leave of him. "Thank you very much," I said, "for your company this evening. It's been fascinating talking to you about your work here. You almost give me the impression of a man who is happy in his work." "Happy, sir? Well, I believe I used to be so, sir, once, but now my mind is troubled, sir. It's deeply, deeply troubled." Of course, I said that I was sorry to hear this, and I asked what it was that troubled him so. "That's not easy for me to talk about, sir. It's not a subject I find easy to talk about at all. If I may answer your question, though, sir, by asking you another question." "By all means," I said, "go ahead. What is your question?" "What made you cry out, 'Helloa below there,' when you first saw me tonight, sir?" "I don't rightly recall," I said. I suppose I must have called out something like that." "No, sir, not something like that. Those were the very words you used. I know those words well." "Very well," I said to him. "Granted, those were the very words I used. I suppose I must have called out 'Helloa below there' simply because I saw you standing below me at the bottom of the embankment." "For no other reason, sir?" "Well, what other reason could there possibly be?" I asked him. "Well, you did not get the feeling, sir, that those words might have been conveyed to you in a supernatural way?" "Supernatural?" I said. "Of course not. The very idea is ridiculous. Supernatural." "I've made up my mind, sir. I will tell you what it is that troubles me. You needn't ask me again. You see, sir, I mistook you for somebody else earlier this evening, and that troubles me." "What?" I said. "That simple mistake?" "No, sir. That somebody else." "You mean somebody looking a little bit like me?" I suggested. "I don't know, sir. I never even saw the face. The left arm is always thrown up against the face like this, sir, and the right arm, well, it's waved. It's violently waved, backwards and forwards." And the signalman, he made a gesture as if someone was saying, "For God's sake, clear the way." It all started just over a year ago, sir. It was a night very much like this one, sir. It was the middle of my watch, and I was here all alone. And all of a sudden, well, down on the line, sir, I heard a call from near the tunnel. Somebody crying out, "Hello, below there!" Well, I went down, sir. I went to the door. I looked down, and there, standing close by the warden, that was the figure of a man, sir, and he was waving as I've just shown you. And again the signalman repeated this gesture. He kept on crying, sir, "Hello, below there, look out," until I thought he must be hoarse with shouting. I came in here, sir. I picked up my lantern and turned it on full. I raced down the line towards him, calling out, "What's the danger? Where's the danger?" I ran so close up to the figure, sir, I was amazed at him still holding his hand in front of his face. I lifted my own hand to pull his sleeve away, sir, and as I did, the spirit disappeared. "Well, by disappeared," I suggested, "do you mean that he ran on into the tunnel?" "Well, that's what I thought myself to begin with, sir. Well, I followed him in, or so I thought, kept calling out, 'What's the danger? Where's the danger?' But all I could see, sir, was the cold stone of the walls of the tunnel and feel the water dripping down. I came back out, sir. I signalled both up and down the line. An alarm has been given. Is all clear?" And the answer came back both ways. Aye. All's clear. "In that case," I suggested, "if all was clear, then maybe you simply imagined this." "No, sir." He reached forwards and he clutched at my forearm in his tight fingers. Some 6 hours after the appearance that night, sir, the memorable accident on this line occurred. And an hour after that, they'd started out bringing the bodies of the dead and the wounded from the tunnel and right over the spot where the figure had stood. Well, now, sir, some 6 or 7 months went by. I had just about recovered from the shock and the surprise of it all, sir, when When one morning, just at daybreak, sir, first light, I was standing by the door there with my tea, sir, looking down on the line, I saw the figure a second time. Did it cry out? I asked him. No, sir, this time it was completely silent. Did it wave its arm at you? No, sir, it stood covering its face, leaning up against the light like this. Did you attempt to go down to speak to this figure? Oh, no, sir. Well, I confess to you, sir, the sight of it this second time after what had happened before, it turned me quite faint inside, sir. I came back in here. I fixed myself a drink of something. Well, it was stronger than tea, sir, if you get my meaning, to steady my nerves. Coffee, I suggested. As you like, sir. Well, when I next went down to look, full daylight was above me, and the figure had gone. Did anything happen this second time? I asked him. That very day, sir. It was time for the morning express to come by. I was there waiting with my flag to give the signal. All was as it should have been, sir. The sky was clear, the train was on time. I even recognised the driver as the engine went past, and then all of a sudden, sir, from one of the carriage windows I saw confusion of heads and hands, and there was a scream for help, sir. I ran down after the train, calling out, "Stop!" to the driver. He put the brakes on, sir, but the train skidded on. There were more cries for help, more screams. I went to see if I could be of any assistance, sir, but by then it was too late. A young woman. Beautiful she was, sir. She had died instantaneous in one of those carriages, sir. Nobody could ever give a reason why. Her poor body was brought in here, sir, to wait for the doctor, and it was laid on the spot where you're now standing, sir. Well, the signalman's pain of mind was most pitiful to see, and there was nothing I could think of to say to him to any purpose. But it seemed he was not quite yet finished with his tale. Now, sir, you listen to the end of my story, and you will see how my mind is troubled, because a week ago the figure came back a third time, and it's been there ever since in fits and starts. I have no peace and no rest for it, sir. It calls out, "Eloa below there." It waves its arm at me, sir. It must be a warning. Well, that cannot be doubted, not after what's happened these first two times. But what can I do about it, sir? What can I do to help? If I were to signal up or down the line, an alarm has been given, take care. The answer would come back, "Well, what's the danger? Where's the danger?" I'd just have to say, "Well, I don't know, just for God's sake, take care." Oh, they'd think I'd lost my wits, sir. They'd take me out of my job here, and I'd be able to do no good. I'm starting to think that its warning is to me, sir, that it's haunting me personally. But what can its warning for me be about? Like I say, sir, I have no rest, no peace. It calls out, waves its arm, it rings my little bell. Now I caught at this new piece of information. "Did it ring your bell this evening?" I asked him, while we were talking. "Yes, sir, twice. And on those two occasions," I said, "when you went to look, did the figure... did it appear to be there?" "There's no appear about it, sir. It was there." "Both times?" "Both times." "In that case, my good man," I said to him, "allow me to reassure you. For my eyes have been upon the bell, and my ears have certainly been open to its sound all evening. I promise you, sir, that that bell did not ring on those two occasions you have just mentioned." "Well, I don't wonder that you didn't hear it, sir. But I heard it. And I've never been mistaken as to that sound yet, sir." Well, I did not feel comfortable leaving the gentleman alone in such a troubled state of mind, in such a position of authority over the railway line. I resolved to stay with him throughout his night watch, but he wouldn't dream of this. He insisted on me making my way back to my hotel, where at least I would have a comfortable bed in which to spend the rest of the night. He did say that he had felt comforted by being able to talk through his troubles, and I didn't go until he had agreed to me coming back the next night, where again I said I would keep him company and we would talk some more. "When you do come back tomorrow night, sir," he said to me, "when you get to the top of the embankment, don't call anything out like you did tonight. Just come straight down. Please, sir, don't call anything out." Well, the next day dawned bright and clear. A beautiful morning. I set off early after breakfast from my hotel in order to make the most of it. And after a splendid day, I made my way back towards the embankment. Imagine then my horror when I got to our appointed place of meeting. When I looked down from where I'd stood just 24 hours before, down towards the railway line, and there I saw, close by the warning light, the appearance of a man, and he was... My horror lasted only a moment, for in a moment I realised this appearance of a man was a real man indeed, and there was another small group of men clustered nearby, to whom he seemed to be rehearsing this gesture, and then I saw something else. Something else that had not been there the day before. Propped up next to the warning light, covered by a single white sheet, was a small tent-like structure, no bigger than a bed. Oh, now convinced that something dreadful had happened as a direct result of me leaving the signalman alone, I raced to the place where I'd made my descent the night before, tripping and stumbling down the cliffside. I ran up towards the men. "What's wrong? What has happened here?" "Signalman. Killed this afternoon, sir." "Oh, no," I said, not the man belonging to that signal box there, not the man that I know." "You would recognise him, sir, if you did know him, for his poor face is quite at rest." "How did this happen? How did this happen?" I said, turning from one to the other of them. "He was cut down by an engine just a couple of hours ago, sir. It's strange, because no man in England knew his job better, sir. He was just changing that signal light there, sir, by the tunnel, but it seemed he wasn't quite clear of the outside rail. And, well, the gentleman over there, sir, he was driving the engine that hit him, sir, and he was just telling us and showing us what happened. Here, Tom, I know, my friend, I know. Come over here and show this gentleman." Tom, the driver, stepped forwards. Dreadful it was, sir. I only saw him at the final moment, like, as we came round the last bend of the tunnel. It was almost like looking down the wrong end of a telescope at him, if you get my meaning, sir. The moment I saw him, I put the brakes on full, sir, and I pulled down on the whistle. But he didn't seem to move, sir. He didn't seem to hear me. He shouldn't even have been there, sir. I don't know what he was doing down by the warning light. Not at that time, not when there was a train due. I pulled on the whistle, but he didn't move, and so I called out to him." You called out?" I asked him. "Yes, sir, as like a warning." "What words did you use?" "Well, I called out, 'Hello, below there.'" Look out, I shouted. Dreadful it was, sir. The brakes were on full. I swear they were, sir. But I could see we weren't going to stop in time. He still hadn't moved. I had to lift my hand in front of my face at the end, sir, so I didn't see. But I never stopped shouting, sir, not until the very end. "Hello, below there! Look out! Look out! For God's sake, clear the way!"